Okay, so it is a little bit past 1:30, so just to respect everyone's time, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I haven't met some of you, so my name is Tyann, and I'm a TEAM-CBT trainer, and I'm just super passionate about TEAM-CBT, so I just love giving away this information. And we have not touched base on how to use TEAM-CBT to treat relationship issues yet, and in my Facebook group, this was what was the most voted on. So that's why we're doing this training today. Okay. I'm just reading through the chats. I can see and listen okay, but I can't make my camera work. Okay. If you want to make your camera work, there's usually an icon at the bottom left where you can click the camera and then you can show up. Okay, Angela says she can just use gallery view, then make the faces larger and still see the PowerPoint. Yeah, exactly. All right. So there's not as much training on relationship work with TEAM-CBT out there, but I really love it, and I love how it addresses motivation. And anytime through this training, if you have any questions, just go ahead and type it in the chat, and then I'll answer it when I have the time to pause, or I'll answer it at the end. Okay. So what is TEAM-CBT? Just a brief overview. TEAM-CBT was developed by Dr. David Burns, and even when we're working with relationships and couples, we want to make sure we address all of these components. So testing is just really measuring how satisfied are they in their relationship, and I'll show you a relationship scale that comes with the brief mood survey that you can purchase in the toolkit, and it's a one-time purchase that you can keep for the rest of your life. I get no money or proceeds from advertising it. I just really believe in the tool. I wish I did. Oh, sorry. And then empathy is before we start to use tools with the clients to help them in their relationships, we just want to make sure that we connect with their stories, connect with their struggles, and that they really feel heard and understood by us before we introduce anything to change for them. I'm going to break agenda setting down a little bit further in the next slide. And then methods is really the last step that we go to. So we want to make sure we do the measurement, connect with the client, address some of the agenda setting pieces before we even start any of the methods with the couples work. So this is the relationship satisfaction scale that comes with the brief mood survey. In TEAM-CBT, we'll have clients complete this before and after every single session. So we can make sure that the tools that we're using are really helping them get closer in their relationship. And so what you see that it measures is their satisfaction level right now regarding the communication and openness with their partner or whoever or whatever relationship they want to work on. I've done this treatment model with people's moms, with their parents, coworkers, with their kids, and it's just as effective. Satisfaction in how they're resolving conflicts, the degree of affection and caring, how close and intimate they feel. So even just emotional intimacy can be measured there. And then overall satisfaction. And we measure that every single session twice to make sure the tools we're using during the session is helping them feel better. And then measuring in between sessions as well, that the homework is also helping to increase the satisfaction there. Okay. So just a little bit about our philosophy in TEAM-CBT regarding relationship work. So this was created by Dr. David Burns, and if you want more information on it, you can purchase or borrow from the library the book called Feeling Good Together. And you'll see all of this in a bit more detail. So I really am kind of just scraping the surface, hoping to whet your appetite so you can understand a little bit more of the tools. There's a lot to cover today, so I definitely want to get to the demos as well, which really brings the tools to life. But what he believes is that, you know, sometimes we hear, oh, it has to take two, they have to put in their part before any of my efforts can work. in improving our relationship. But what we see is that's not always true. In any relationship problem, he sees that it's 100% me and it's 100% you. It's actually very hard to weed out who's at fault here, because you will respond to my reactions, and however you respond, I'll respond back to that, and then we just see we feed into each other. It's very hard to weed out who started it, who's more at fault. And it sounds kind of sucky to say that you're also 100% accountable for the relationship, but you'll see that this is where it's empowering for the client. And I'll show you why in the next couple of rules. So this second rule was really kind of hard for me to swallow, that we're working to create the relationship dynamic that we're complaining about. Where, initially even looking at my relationship with my husband, it's like, or even my mom, it's like, I'm working to create the dynamic that I'm complaining about. But the more that I looked at it, the more I could really see how true this is. So for example, like with my mom, my complaint about her was that she was kind of controlling with how I raised my daughter. And when I started to do this personal work for myself, I realized, like, every time she expressed a concern, I would actually be pretty dismissive. I would say, oh, Mom, you're just talking about that old school Vietnamese tradition, or don't worry about it. And just really be dismissive of her. And the more dismissive I am, the more she actually wanted to have a voice and turns up the control. And then when I started to apply some of the tools that I'll show you guys, it just really shifted everything. She started to hear me out more because I was starting to hear her out more too. And then started to, when she felt respected, didn't feel like she needed to continue to go on and on about whatever she was trying to control there. Okay, so why the 100% me, 100% you accountability is empowering is it shows that we have a lot more power than we think. And we truly believe that if we work to solely look at ourselves and change just our part, we will change the whole relationship. It is a bit painful to be willing to solely look at your part and to be willing to let go of blame, but that is where you can really have a lot of power in shifting any of the relationship dynamics that you have. Okay. And it can be quite painful. Every time I've looked at my part in the relationship journal, I've gotten tearful, or I felt quite guilty about what's going on. And it's just having to be willing to kill your ego and go through that pain in order to get closer with your relationships there. Okay, so like I said, we do testing and then empathy to make sure we connect with our clients, and then agenda setting. So I'll show you some of the empathy tools that will also show our clients. And then agenda setting has 4 specific steps. And when we're doing relationship work, after we make sure they feel heard and understood in their relationship problems, we issue an invitation to work on the relationship. So it would go something like, would this be a good time for us to transition to working on some of the problems that you're sharing with me about in your relationship, your marriage, or your connection with your mom? Or do you need a little bit more supportive listening from me? Because that's important too. I really also want you to feel heard and understood. So then your open hands, you also give them the invitation to do the work, but offer, if they are still wanting to feel more heard and supported, that's an option that you'll accept too. And then once they're ready to do the work and they feel connected with you and empathize with, we go into specificity using the relationship journal, and then I'll show you what that looks like. The conceptualization is the 3rd step in agenda setting, and we're conceptualizing it as a relationship problem. And the truth is, what we find is that doing relationship work with one person is actually quicker and more effective than having 2 people in the room, because you're actually working with more dynamics. If one person's willing to solely look at their part and apply these tools, the relationship satisfaction actually increases faster. Of course, there are times that you have people who want their partner there. They feel better when both people are involved and willing to do the work. And it can still work as well. And I'll share with you how I do the relationship work with 2 and with 1 person. And then motivation. This is so key, because oftentimes with any treatment model, We just really want to like teach them communication skills or point out their errors. But we miss this motivational piece where we forget to look at, do they really want change? Do they just want to be there to vent about their spouse so you can be on their side and support them? Or do they really truly want change in their relationship? So the outcome resistance is, what is it that they may not want, that they say that they want, but there may actually be a lot of good reasons for them to not want it, right? So in a relationship problem, they may actually not want to get closer to that other person because maybe they're actually really upset with them, or they want to protect themselves because that person has hurt them. There's been too much pain in the past, so they don't want to give it another shot, right? So there's lots of good reasons to not want to get closer. And you have to really see with the agenda, what is it that this person wants for their relationship? So there's 3 options. They may want to end the relationship. They may be there and don't really want your tools to get closer. They're actually processing wanting to get more distance from that person or to end the relationship. Then these tools won't work for them. So then you may just want to do some mood work surrounding grief or depression, so anxiety around letting go of that relationship. They may actually want to keep the status quo, where they're saying that all of this fighting is painful, but it may actually be ultimately more satisfying than doing this painful work to get closer, where they have to look at their part too. And by the time that they choose to, that they say, yeah, you know, I don't want to maintain the status quo. I want to work on this relationship and I want to get closer to that other person. That's the time then we move forward with this work. Because if the agenda is any of the other 2 options, or not wanting to get closer, the treatment model just won't work for them. Okay. And I'll go a little bit more in depth with these motivational tools to show you how it goes. The process resistance is, what is it that they're going to have to do in order to be successful in this work that they won't want to do? And most people don't want to let go of blame. It's so much easier to see what the other person's doing wrong. I know that's true for me. I can point out my husband's errors all day, my parents' errors all day, but it's actually quite a bit more painful to look at our part and how we contribute to this dynamic. And so many of us may not want to let go of blame or some of the other communication errors because we're trying to protect ourselves. And I'll show you a list of the communication errors in just a minute. Okay, so I just want to pause here to see if anyone had any questions so far before we look at really going deeper into addressing motivation. We have to do some motivational work before any of the tools will really be effective here. Any questions so far? I don't see any faces, but I see something coming up in the chat. Okay, this is great so far, no questions. Okay, that's good. So addressing motivation, you guys really can either open your mic or type into the chat. But what we really want to look at is they're telling you, hey, I want to do this work to get closer. And remember, when we're doing the motivational work, we really want to stay paradoxical. So we want to argue for what are actually the good reasons to not get closer to this person that will address the outcome resistance. And then we want to explore what are the good reasons to continue to blame the other person. Sometimes blame sounds harsh and clients may not like that word. So I would word it like, what are all of the good reasons to just focus on what they're doing wrong and not do this work to look at yourself and change your own communication errors, right? So just think of one person that, you know, may have some minor relationship conflicts with, and just go ahead and think, if you were to be told to do this relationship work and use these tools, what would be the good reasons to not get closer to that other person? Go ahead and just throw out some ideas. I actually want to stop the share just for a minute so I can see people's faces. Okay, there we go. Yeah, what are the good reasons to not get closer to the other person that you're maybe in somewhat conflict with, or maybe feeling, a lot of times there may have already been some history and hurt.
I was going to say not getting hurt again.
Yeah, exactly. What would you risk in working to get closer again? Possibly getting hurt again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the outcome resistance. Sorry, let me pull up my notebook so I can take some notes here. So you could get hurt again. It is really vulnerable. The good reasons to not get closer, it's vulnerable. It's uncomfortable. I can promise you every time that I'm being really real with addressing a problem in my relationships, it's tearful. It's very vulnerable. It's emotional to get there. And sometimes we don't want to do that. What other reasons are there to not get closer? There's pride. Okay. So a lot of this is actually addressing the process resistance. What's the good reason to stop looking at their faults or their errors and start to solely look at our errors? And I have to let go of pride. It'll be more vulnerable. It's uncomfortable. But good reasons to not get closer, the outcome resistance, good reasons to keep distance would be like, like maybe they don't deserve it. They're the one who's been hurtful to me. They've been a jerk or something along those lines, right? I'm upset with them. Why would I want to do this work to get closer to them if I'm upset with them, right? So when I'm working with a client, I really thoroughly address the answers to these questions, and then I'll show you voicing the resistance with it. So I'm upset with them. That's a good reason to not get closer to them. I'm right. That's a good one, Grace. I'm right and they're in the wrong. So I don't want to get closer to them, and part of getting closer to them is I kind of have to own up to my part too, right? Oh, Angela says, I don't want to invest the time. It is time intensive. I actually had a client who said that. We were getting ready to do interpersonal work, but she's like, I just don't have the energy or time for this, and just wasn't feeling it. And then we really just got to let it go. Even though I knew it would have likely helped her marriage and her mood, she wasn't feeling it. Yeah. Ashley says, I don't trust the other person. I don't trust them. They've hurt me, so I don't want to get closer right now. I'd rather keep that distance because it protects me, right? Getting closer means that you have to work on your contributions that reinforce negative outcomes in the relationship. Exactly. So this would be part of the process resistance as well. As getting closer means I have to work on my part. And many of us, it's not like the first thing you want to do when you get up is, oh, I want to look at all of my communication errors and how I'm in the wrong in my relationship so I can work to get it better. It's actually a quite painful process. He doesn't deserve me. Yeah. They don't deserve me working on it. It's not fair. Sometimes people say that it's not fair. Why am I the one who has to solely do the work? And then he or she or they can just sit there and reap the benefits. It doesn't seem fair. So that one's a big one that comes up with a lot of my clients. Maybe it doesn't feel really quite fair that they're the ones kind of being a jerk right now, and you're the one that has to work to solely change your part. Right? Okay, so we have enough just for an example because we do have a lot to cover. And I knew I wouldn't get in all of this in 1 hour, so I did extend it to an hour and a half. And that was upon request with several people too, wanting a bit of a longer webinar. And so from here, again, you just make a thorough list to work on their motivation, right? So what you're doing right now, you're actually addressing resistance to change. You're arguing for the status quo. So you're actually pulling up points of resistance and bringing it to conscious awareness. What are the good reasons why you don't want to get closer? And then what are the good reasons to continue to blame the other person? Did y'all have any other thoughts on that second piece, the process resistance? What are the good reasons to blame the other person and to not look at your part and to solely change yourself? So we already said that would be vulnerable. It'll be uncomfortable. I'd have to let go of my pride. It's easier. Exactly, Grace. That one comes up a lot. It's actually easier to just solely focus on what they're doing wrong. And any other thoughts on that, the benefits of blame?
I know they'll never change, and I'm the only one putting in the work.
Okay, I wasn't quite sure who said that, but yeah, that's good. So maybe there's a fairness piece there. They'll never change, and I'm the only one who would have to put in the work, and that wouldn't feel fair or right, right? Yeah. Other reasons that people say that it's more beneficial to blame is, Basha said, I'm not feeling responsible for the relationship. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Basha or Basha. And other reasons are that, oh, were you saying something?
Batia.
Oh, Batia. Okay, I wasn't even close. Batia. Yeah, so I'm not feeling responsible for the relationship. Other times it just, I rather blame them because I can feel less guilty. I can still stay in the right? If I'm looking at my part, I'll feel more guilty. I'll feel bad about myself. I can preserve my self-esteem if I continue to blame them and say it's all on them. I can feel just kind of a bit more morally superior than that other person. So you really want to thoroughly explore these reasons with your clients, because this will come back and bite us if we don't address it, because these reasons will come back up again. And what Dr. Burns says is, once we work through the motivation to change, they reach this relationship enlightenment where they can see their faults and how they contribute to this dynamic. But it lasts about 5 minutes. And we relapse about every 5 minutes when we're doing relationship work, because again, it won't feel fair. And again, it feels like they deserve to be punished, right? They don't deserve my kind words or something like that. So it's very important to then voice the resistance and have them have it in writing so they can continue to look at what are the good reasons to do this work despite all of the benefits to not change. So what we just did was the positive reframing of keeping the status quo of not changing by answering what are the benefits of not getting closer and what are the benefits of continuing to blame the other person, right? And if I'm doing a couples work with 2 people, I have both of them do this exercise with me and kind of list out things that feels true for them. After we do the positive reframing of the status quo of not getting closer and of continuing to blame the other person, I would do something called voicing the resistance. And before I do that, I would ask, what is your motivation to do this hard work to change now, after we look at all of the good reasons to not get closer? They've been a jerk, they don't deserve my hard work, it wouldn't be fair, and then I'll feel more guilty, etc. What is your motivation to actually move forward and do this work? 0 to 100, 100 is I'm still completely motivated to do this. 0 is none at all. Just some of you who are just kind of thinking about a relationship and why you don't want to get closer and why you want to continue to blame them. How motivated do you feel about doing this work to change yourself and to get closer to that person? 0 to 100, just throw out a random number. Any thoughts? Not feeling responsible for the relationship, Batia says maybe 75. Okay, 75 is actually really good. 70%, okay. Usually I'll often see it be a little bit lower than that. And I think with some of the higher numbers we see because we haven't really quite addressed that specific relationship with the person. But when we uncover the good reasons to not get closer and the good reasons to continue to blame, you'll see the motivation to change and do this work kind of decrease from the baseline. Because initially they'll often say it's 100. And then we'll bring the resistance to conscious awareness, and they're like, really, maybe it's really about 50 or even 40% or even 60, right? So then I would measure their motivation, and then I would do voicing the resistance. So I would say, would you be willing to try this with me? Would someone be willing to just engage in a brief role play so we could bring this tool to life? Anyone willing to do exposure and get a little bit?
Sure, I'm willing.
Who was that?
LaShawn.
Oh, LaShawn. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a camera on, or you prefer to?
I don't have it on.
Okay.
Okay.
So say LaShawn is my client. And if there's two people in the room, I just do this with one person, and then I do this with the other. And so I make it a very transparent process that they're both doing this work together. And so I would say, LaShawn, so now we have a really thorough list of reasons why you don't want to get closer. Can we just make an example that's your partner?
Yes.
LaShawn? We have all of these good reasons to not get closer to your partner, and all of these good reasons to continue to focus on what they're doing wrong. And really not look at your part. So what I'm going to do right now is a motivational tool called Voicing the Resistance. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take on that voice of that part of you that's hung on to all of these good reasons to not change. These are likely the reasons why you continue to come back into fighting or having conflict or not expressing healthy communication because of many of these powerful reasons, right? So I'm going to take on that voice of that part of you that may not want to change for all of these good reasons. And your job would be to just respond to me as honestly as you can as to why you should change. Why should we move forward with doing this hard work where you'd solely have to look at your part considering all of these reasons. You got any questions before we jump into this, Ms. Shawn?
Can I be wrong?
Yeah, you really can't be wrong. You just got to be genuine and
Okay.
just respond in an honest way, right? Yeah.
Okay.
And there's really no right or wrong way to do this. Just respond to it. Okay, LaShawn, so really considering all of these benefits and powerful reasons to not change, why would you want to do this hard work to change when it's really not fair and you're upset with them right now? It's not fair that you have to solely be the person who has to do the work, and it's not fair that you have to focus on how your part. Why would you want to do this work to change?
Because it's a
Because my
decision.
relationship is that important.
Well, because your relationship is that important.
Yes.
Even when you're upset with them and it really kind of won't feel fair when you're the one who solely has to look at changing your part.
Yes, but I made this commitment.
Yeah, but aren't you in the right and they're often wrong?
It's not about being right or wrong for me.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to skip forward to, but the truth is it's going to be actually quite vulnerable to use some of these tools, and you could even feel guilty and painful. Why would you want to go there?
Because my relationship is worth it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, LaShawn, what did you find happened for you as you were taking on the voice of change? So you see, when we're staying paradoxical, right? We're staying as the voice of the resistance, and we want them to really argue for change, that they want us to give them these tools to change. It shouldn't be our voice telling them, hey, I got these, or like, you should change because of all of these good reasons. It has to be their voice, and you'll see it be a lot more powerful. What did you see just internally for yourself, LaShawn, as you were the one taking on the voice of change?
It helped me remember why I was in the relationship to begin with, like what my first motivation to be in the relationship was, and that's to stay together, to make it work, to do my hard work.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And we'll hear this from a lot of people. It helps me remember why I was in the relationship in the first place. It helps them connect with their values. And they'll say things like, yeah, I know it'll be hard work, but that's when it matters. Like, the hard work is what creates change. Or I know it's not fair, but it's not about fairness. And life isn't fair sometimes. Like, you'll see them take on this voice of change, and it gets more and more powerful. What did that do to your motivation to change, LaShawn?
It made me want to be even more committed, because this is what I'm saying. So now I have to do what I'm saying.
Yeah, you verbalize it, makes you want to be more committed, then you're more firm in the change, but it has to be your voice and not the counselor convincing you why you should change. Right? What thoughts or questions do you all have about revealing the resistance and then voicing the resistance to work to melt it away? Oh, and if LaShawn was my real client, I would then measure again, how much is your motivation now to change? Did you see any shifts after you took on the voice of change? So usually I'll see them say, you know, it was like maybe 55 and now it's really gotten up to 75. Because they'll say reasons like, you know, it doesn't feel fair, but my kids are worth it. It's not fair for them that we continue to bicker. Like there's some really powerful reasons that come up. And these powerful reasons really connect with their heart and their values. And so it really boosts motivation to change. And then I'll have them write down every single point because we know resistance will come up again and their motivation will get lower again. Remember that enlightenment lasts 5 minutes with relationship work. They'll continue to relapse. So it's important to have this whole list in front of them that's close to their heart, that connects with their values for them to continue to look at. And then motivation to change would, you know, roughly get to 70, 80. I've had people say, you know, 95 and all of that. And what we're really looking for before we even move forward is like roughly around 70%. Otherwise, you kind of want to stay paradoxical. Like even if they say 60, it's kind of a judgment call whether you want to move forward with the tools or not. But at 60%, there's still so much reason to not move forward with change. There's still 40% part of them that doesn't want to change. So you kind of want to stay paradoxical and like, yeah, I see 60% of you is motivated to change, but there's still all these good reasons to not change. Like I would look at what's that 40% saying as to why you shouldn't change. And then I would reveal that and then really do some more voicing the resistance with that to see it if it could increase a little bit more. Right? Yeah, and the point is not for us to increase their motivation. The point is for us to give them the chance to have a voice of change to increase their own motivation, to convince us that they do want to do this work. So then we can be successful with the tools. So it doesn't really matter what approach you use, whether it's emotional focused therapy, Gottman's therapy for couples, anything you use after that, when you can see that they're motivated to change, any of the tools will work a lot more effectively. Gladys asks, when you have the couple in session, do you ever get the feeling like the person who is listening will then repeat what the first person said and not be genuine about their own feelings on motivation? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I guess it just depends on the dynamics. Like maybe some people are a little bit more passive and they just want to say, oh, they're actually like 20%, but their partner's there, so they don't want to hurt their feelings. So sometimes it's important to do some of these tools maybe separately if you have those concerns, right, with the client, where you can do 2 individual sessions first to really assess motivation separately. And if one person's not motivated, but the other is highly motivated, it may be better to just do relationship work with one. But a lot of times I've just done it together with them and really haven't seen an issue. But if I'm seeing resistance, then it may be important to separate them and see if they're struggling with honesty when they're together. Okay, so we're gonna go back to the screen share. And of course, any questions come up, just type them in the chat for me. So we just got through agenda setting now. This will work. Okay, and then we did the demo. Okay, and then this is the relationship journal. And I know I have a demo for the relationship journal, but I really right now want to show you what we give our clients that they fill out themselves. So the relationship journal then allows us to move into specificity and choose one moment in time when you had a conflict. And that one moment in time will be embedded with relationship errors that they'll have over and over again. That one moment in time will reflect all of the moments in time when they're having a struggle here. So this is in Dr. Burns' toolkit. Again, you do have to purchase this in order to be able to use it. It's copyrighted, but I think it's a great little form. And you don't have to buy the toolkit in order to just, you know, do something kind of similar to this. But this is the part that's specificity here. The relationship journal is, what is one thing the other person said, and what is one thing and how you responded? What did you say back to them? And that is all that you need for a moment in time to really have a picture of their whole relationship problem. My favorite analogy for specificity and why it's powerful is if you imagine like treating the relationship problem is like treating a body of water, or you're treating depression, anxiety. Imagine like there's a body of water that you need to treat. You're going to just get a sample of that body of water, and that sample will reflect all of the errors, the pollution that's going on in the whole body of water. And even when you get the sample, you're going to even get a smaller droplet of that, you know, and put it under a microscope. And so the more specific we can get, actually the more effective we can be in analyzing what errors this person is making to create the dynamic that they're having. Bhatia is asking, is this tool in the book Feeling Good Together? I would think so. It's been a little bit since I've read the book Feeling Good Together, but I couldn't imagine that book not having that. Does anyone have recollection who had read the book more recently, whether the relationship journal is in there? And the truth is, I really find the toolkit is really valuable, and once you purchase it, you can use it over and over again and make as many copies as you want for the rest of your life until you die. So I just believe it's so worth it. But if you don't have the toolkit, you really can just, what's one thing they said and how did you respond, and analyze it from there. Oh, thanks so much, Angela. She's always so on top of things. It's on page 260. So if you just buy the book, you know, it's like what, $12? So you'll save yourself like $200 there if you just want these tools from it. Okay. And Carmen agrees that the toolkit is very helpful with our measurement tools. Yeah, absolutely. And then you have them in step 3. I still then do a little bit of process resistance work, right? Where I take on the voice of the resistance, where I say, okay, now we're going to get into step 3, where you're going to have to really analyze your part and look at your own errors. And it is a little bit painful. Are you still okay with us going there? Are you still on board with that? And so just addressing the process resistance where they can be aware of that. And once they have the buy-in, they would say something like, yeah, I know this will suck, but I'm ready to do it. Then it becomes even more successful there. Okay. So let me see where we're at on time, and let me get another volunteer to bring this to life, because I'd hate to just read it to you. A lot of times for me, it's helpful to just actually see it come into play for people. And then this is the ear checklist, where we have them analyze their part. So the ear checklists are the 3 important components in good communication versus bad. And then the communication errors, there's 18 of them that are most common, and I've probably committed all of those in my relationships. So with every client, I give them the relationship journal. I give them this form with the ear checklist and the communication errors that we all make, so they can have more self-awareness. And then I give them this feelings chart, because that will become helpful in some of the components there, and especially the 5 secrets. And then I give them this form too. This is the 5 secrets of effective communication. This will play into step 5 right here, step 5 of the revise your communication from step 2. Okay. And again, when I'm working with couples, I have one person go first and then the other person goes next. And it's actually quite effective. They get pretty amused at the other person who has to do the personal work to solely look at their part. And the partners actually end up really appreciating it. They feel empathized with when the other person is starting to see their errors and connect with it. Okay. So let me now stop the screen share and get another volunteer. And if you're not comfortable with like using a real relationship, you can just use a fake one, just so you can see how that works. I heard a voice.
Sure, I will.
Hi, it's Jessica. Can you hear me?
Hey, Jessica. Thanks so much for stepping up and volunteering. Okay, so we have Jessica here. And so with the relationship journal, is there a relationship that you would like to use for this? And usually, or you can just use a mock one that a client may have. You can be a fake client.
I'll just use myself.
You'll just use yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, and what would be the relationship that you actually want to get closer to?
My spouse.
Okay, so your partner. And so at the beginning, I still want to do some measurement with them. I would say, so from 0 to 100, just how satisfied are you in this relationship? Like overall closeness and
Like as far as closeness is concerned, like I definitely want to improve. So I my satisfaction with the closeness is probably 60%.
60% too. Okay. And did you have thoughts on other, like satisfaction on others? Usually I'll
Well,
just say like the overall satisfaction.
like it's a good relationship, but the closeness piece is I don't know, you got 3 kids and it's just not quite as close as you would want it to be.
For sure. Yeah, like
So
every child actually decreases relationship satisfaction. Like not
definitely.
even double, but exponentially. Like the second kid, you're 4 times less satisfied. The third kid, it's like 10 times. So
Yeah, thanks for that.
you're welcome. Yeah, and so just being in a relationship with 3 kids, it's just harder, isn't it? There's just more
Yeah.
challenges with feeling closer or getting closer with them. So just a little bit of measurement, a little bit of empathy and connection there. And Jessica's been my friend for 8 years. So has it been like 9 years, I think? We've
Yeah,
worked together. So
been a while.
yeah. Was there anything else relating to this that you would appreciate a bit more empathy on before we do some of the?
No, I feel like you heard what I had to say and recognize where I'm at.
Okay, great. So let me just bring up the screen share so you can see the steps that we're going to go through the relationship journal. So with this, I would start with, we're assuming she's motivated to do this work and that we've done what we just went through, right? So overall, where would be your motivation to do this work to get closer with your partner, Jessica?
Like 85%, depending on how much effort it took.
Did you say regardless of how much effort it took?
No, I said depending on.
Depending on, yeah.
Or time, like.
Right, like with 3 kids, how much time this would take too, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so usually, you know, if my clients were to say something like that, I would still address a bit more of the motivation, like, yeah, it will take some time and investment. It doesn't have to be, you know, all the moments of the day, but when you're seeing your errors, you would come back and address it. So it may be once a day, once every few days, something along those lines. Is that something you'd be willing and able to do, considering you do have 3 kids and a pretty busy life there?
Yes.
And why would you want to do this work, considering you're so busy and drained and overwhelmed with 3 kids already?
I'm committed to the relationship, and why not? If I'm already going to be in it, like, there's nothing that should keep me from wanting it to make it better, because it's an important relationship to me, and you know, it's worth it.
And it's worth it. Yeah, that's beautiful. So I'm just doing some brief addressing of the motivational portion here on just, you know, why would you want to do this hard work to change when it will take time? You are already, you know, have your hands full with 3 kids. So you'll see it connects with her values again. I'm committed to this relationship. The relationship's important to me and it's worth it. So you can see a lot of times it gets pretty moving to hear their reasons to change. So now we got measurement. The satisfaction with the partner is 60%. And then I would have you, Jessica, just look at what's one moment in time when you had a bit of a conflict and your partner said something that maybe was a little bit upsetting to you.
This one's silly, but I go here all the time. It's like he was opening the refrigerator and he told me, he was like, hey, we need to clean this out because it was dirty. And so I automatically like felt hurt because I thought he was saying, you need to clean this out, even though he used the word we. It felt like that's my job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really want to close the screen share. Would it be okay with everyone to, like, I'll just review what the steps are in the relationship journal, because I kind of want to see you guys to see Jessica, and I want to see you too as you're sharing about this, if that's okay with everyone. So you're saying, in this moment, he said, we need to clean this out, it's dirty. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it was my client, I would say, okay, go ahead and write that in step 1, what he said to you, and she did a great job on just being brief, right? Because the more brief you are, actually, the more effective you can analyze the whole situation. We need to clean this out, it's dirty. And then step 2, so that's step 1, what did they say? Step 2 is, how did you respond exactly? And be brief with that too.
Yeah, exactly. I
the best of your
said something, sarcastic, like, yeah, we do, don't we? And just kind of snarky.
Yeah, we do, don't we? And Jessica, I just appreciate you sharing this and bringing a vulnerable moment of your relationship to this group. And many of my clients that I've worked with, they'll often say what you just said on, this is going to be a silly example, or, they feel kind of self-conscious about it. But there's actually so much in any example, because in one example, you'll see that they'll be able to uncover there's so much more to this. So likely we need to clean this out, it's dirty. It's probably connected to maybe patterns of her feeling maybe not as appreciated, maybe feeling criticized. So it's way beyond the fridge, and it's way beyond that comment.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what moment they choose if they feel silly about it, because they'll connect with something a lot deeper for them, and that's what we're going to get to. Right? So step 1 is, what did they say? We need to clean this out, it's dirty. Step 2 is yeah, we do, don't we? Kind of coming back with some sarcasm and snarkiness, you said.
Yeah.
I'm good at that too. I usually get a little bit worse than that.
Well, I'm sure there was a tone as well. But.
A tone, yeah.
Yeah.
And then this isn't in the original relationship journal, but it is a step that we're adding just so we can add a little bit more piece of making the empathy piece a little bit easier. So then I would say under step 1, just put 1A, and then we're going to explore how is your partner feeling likely. Did you want to give your partner a name? Or
Chris.
Your name? Okay. So how is Chris likely feeling when he said, we need to clean this out, it's dirty? So this is step 1A under step 1 is exploring Chris's feelings.
So like, how is he feeling before I respond or after?
Yeah, just in the moment.
Oh, he probably just, like sees something and just is talking out loud because he recognizes, something.
So he was just recognizing it. Were there likely feelings like maybe he was just a little bit off-put by the fridge not being clean? Or
honestly, I don't think so. I think it was just like it came to his, his mind's eye, and he realized it was like just talking out loud,
So you think he really wasn't having any feelings about it?
No, I mean, I
being
just
irritated or off-put or
no
negative feelings about it. He was just kind of like feeling maybe peaceful or just kind of free.
Yeah, I mean, it was just he was just making a comment. It wasn't. I don't think he was like upset or annoyed or anything.
Yeah.
Just recognizing that, like, oh, this is something else we need to do. Just adding to our constant to-do list.
Okay. So he was just feeling like his usual self, kind of euthymic, not really thinking anything negative about this. He was just kind of making a comment.
Right.
Okay. And then step 2A, when you said, yeah, we do, don't we? And you said there's some sarcasm and snarky tones. What were you feeling?
I felt like he was criticizing me, and like how clean I keep the refrigerator, or how well I do the stuff as far as, because I'm at home most of the time with the girls. So it's kind of like criticizing my job.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. So the feelings were feeling criticized, and this is your job, and
Yeah.
it's a job that's important to you. It's close to your
Mhm.
heart, and so
Yeah.
it felt kind of criticized and maybe a little bit hurt.
Yeah.
So I'll explore the feelings with the clients in that way, right? So she felt criticized, a little bit hurt, and then I would also explore, like, I wondered if maybe you felt annoyed or kind of irritated with the comments, or maybe just disconnected or lonely, like left hanging in the struggle.
Maybe more irritated, just kind of like,
Irritated.
if you notice something, my thought was, then why don't you just do it yourself? Like, just do it if you notice it.
Yeah. So criticized, hurt, and irritated.
Mm-hmm.
Any parts of you felt maybe inadequate or?
I mean, I think that goes with the hurt feeling of just kind
Okay.
of like, I'm not doing a good enough job, so I'm not adequate at what I'm doing, or feel like I'm being judged.
Yeah. So I forgot to mention that the interpersonal treatment model is one of the 4 treatment models in treating depression. So you'll see when there's a relationship disconnect, a lot of times there's some depressive thoughts that come up too, or just thoughts where they're feeling down, like, I'm not good, I'm not doing a good enough job for them, or they're not happy with me. And so we'll see that when we work on the relationship and the connection improves, the depression will get better too. And I have a depression webinar next Friday at the same time. And I'm stacking them up because I won't be doing webinars for July or August because I'll be on vacation. So next week it'll also be an hour and a half, and you'll see, like, when we integrate what Jessica's talking about into the other 3 depression treatment models, it really help to improve things. Okay, so now we have feeling criticized, hurt, irritated, and inadequate. Any other feelings we're missing, or were those the main ones?
I would say those are the main ones.
Yeah. Okay. So before I go to step 3, I usually say, okay, so now this is the part where we really work to analyze your step 2 response, and it can sometimes be a little bit painful. Would you still be willing to go there? Are you still on board with that, on looking at your part and how you came off there?
Let's do it.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong laptop. So step 3, I'm going to pull up the relationship journal that I give the client again, so you can really see it here. I'm scrolling. Okay, there it is. So then we would pull out this sheet, my client and I would, and we would first start off with the ear checklist. So I would tell them, EAR is an acronym where these are the 3 components of a healthy and good communication. And so we really want to solely analyze step 2, where you said, yeah, we do, don't we? And really look at, did you empathize with your partner? Did you assert your feelings? And did your attitude come off respectfully and caring? You can get a total score of 3 out of 3 if you hit on all 3 points, and 0 out of 3 if you didn't touch on, and if you had it on the bad communication side. Then I would say the first piece is empathy, where you acknowledge your partner's feelings. And looks like on step 1A, he just wasn't feeling much. He was just kind of making a comment. So that would just be acknowledging, like, oh, I know you're not thinking much of this. So in order to get credit, you kind of acknowledge their perspective, acknowledge their truth and their feelings. Would you say you get a check mark on the left side or the right side there?
I acknowledged what he said, but I don't know that I was acknowledging his feelings.
So maybe ignored his feelings. Because
Yeah.
he's just kind of feeling, I'm hearing, like, casual, like just as usual, calm, happy, not really thinking much of the situation, right?
Yeah.
So then would it kind of be more on the ignoring his feelings?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay. And usually sometimes it's kind of hard for the clients. Like I just did this with a client yesterday where she's like, I want to give myself at least half a point because I did this or that. Or because she said it's really kind of painful to really look at, oh, I didn't acknowledge his feelings at all, or disarmed him, which we'll get to. Okay, so step 2 would be asserting your feelings, and you get credit for this if you express any of your feelings from step 2A, where you're feeling a bit hurt or inadequate or irritated, and actually using the feeling words instead of just through tone or through nonverbals. We get credit if we use the actual words openly and directly. Would you get credit on the left side or the right side here?
I would say the bad communication side.
Okay, so another one on the right side, the bad communication. And usually I often self-disclose with my clients, and it's true that when I'm doing this personally for myself, I almost always get 0 out of 3. Almost always, if not 1 or 0.5, right? And then your attitude was respectful and caring, where what we see is in any moment, in the heat of the moment, if we can make a stroking statement or come off with some warmth about seeing the good in that person or what they're trying to say, it can just change the whole dynamic. What side would you get credit on here?
We're going to go back over to the right.
To the right. Okay, so overall on step 3, I would have you put down, then you got 0 out of 3 on the ear checklist. And then you would just put, I would have them put down like, I didn't acknowledge his feelings, I didn't express mine, and my attitude was maybe sarcastic and snarky or something like that, right? And you can see how the partners love when I'm doing this with their partner in the room. Because it feels kind of satisfying for the first time that person's owning up to their errors or their part. But the partner ultimately actually feels quite empathized with and understood after that, right? Okay, gosh, I want to get to forced empathy. I don't know if I'll be able to get to 5 secrets. And then I'll go through this checklist with them, the bad communication checklist. And I would also really use a lot of self-disclosure with this because it is vulnerable to look at how we communicate. And I would say, and it's true that I've engaged in many of these where I'm blaming or defensive, I'm hanging on to my truth instead of hearing them out. Truth, blame, and defensiveness are the top 3 most common communication errors because we're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to hold the other person accountable. But then I'll just have them go through this and look at, in your step 2, when you said, yeah, we do, don't we? What do you see as the communication error that you made here? So we'll just do 1 or 2 so I have time for the forced empathy and maybe 5 secrets here.
I mean, defensiveness,
Yeah,
passive aggression, snarky comment.
that's my big one.
Yeah.
Still am sometimes queen of passive aggressiveness, just because it feels so much easier, and sometimes the silent treatment is pretty satisfying, you know, compared to being vulnerable and sharing that, hey, I'm actually kind of hurt, or where then I would have to cry, because usually that's where it goes when we're really being vulnerable with them. So being defensive, being passive aggressive,
And the sarcasm.
and sarcastic. Okay. And would you happen to often see this pattern come up with these typical errors in other conflicts that you have with Chris, where you may get defensive or sarcastic or passive aggressive? And most of the time they said yes. That's really kind of my go-to.
Absolutely.
And then this is the part where we really work to, the key of the relationship journal is not just to teach them the 5 secrets of effective communication, but it's really to give them enlightenment on how they contribute to this relationship dynamic in a way that they're not aware of. So Jessica's complaint may be that we're not feeling as close, and others may be something else, right? Like mine was my mom's controlling. But what we want to do with this next step and the forced empathy is for them to really see how they work to contribute to this dynamic with the other person, and how their response leads the other person to maybe not feeling as close too. And then if they have more distance, then you really struggle in the closeness. So the behaviors reinforce the thing I'm complaining about. So I would say, okay, so you have defensiveness, passive aggressiveness, and sarcasm. How do you think that's likely to affect Chris's feelings and his behaviors when he sees either defensiveness from you, and you said he really wasn't feeling much about it, so maybe caught off guard, and then you're sarcastic and passive aggressive? How is that likely to affect him?
He would probably feel like, oh, why did I get in trouble for just opening my mouth and just making a comment? You know, so then I think he would then feel defensive or hurt that I would, you know, automatically assume negative about him.
Yeah, so he would feel like first kind of in trouble for just opening his mouth. And then he would feel defensive. Oh, did Jessica freeze? Did she freeze for you guys? Oh, that sucks. That was convenient. She got to escape the worst of it. Oh, there you are.
Okay, let's see. I'll walk a little bit.
Yeah, you're
Is this
good.
better?
So he'd feel kind of a bit like in trouble just for opening his mouth, and then a bit defensive, and then hurt as well. Like that, maybe kind of being made the bad guy. You said, like, I'm assuming bad.
Yeah.
And then how is he likely to respond or behave when he's feeling in trouble for opening his mouth, defensive, hurt?
I would say just kind of shut down, or, you know, he doesn't respond. Every once in a while, snarky back.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of common with all of us. So he'll shut down, doesn't respond, gets snarky. And then what does that do to your closeness when you see that response from him?
We're get further away.
Yeah, exactly. What is this feeling like for you as you're looking at your communication errors and then it contributing to these feelings in him and these behaviors?
I mean, it makes me just realize or see kind of more of my role in the relationship, and how it, you know, it's hard to be close if I'm not doing things that would encourage closeness.
Yeah. So you're more able to see your role and see your part. And oh, sorry, there was a chat. Risa, it was just an hour webinar. Oh, I made this an hour and a half. Maybe I should have made a note in there. But yeah, if you thought it was an hour, feel free to head out, and you'll get an hour credit for it. And then if you're here for the whole hour and a half, then you'll get that too. Okay, and what are your feelings as you're recognizing your role in the relationship, and how you said that would make it hard to be a bit closer when I'm not contributing to the closeness?
I'm just thinking that like that's not how I want to respond, or that's not really how I feel about him. Because I know, like, he's not purposefully ever like hurtful or trying to degrade me. You know, that's not him.
Right.
So, you know, why do I go there?
Sure. And it makes sense when you're overwhelmed and this is really close to your heart. This is your job right now, staying home with the girls and keeping up the house. So for a lot of reasons we go there, but it's a beautiful thing in this moment when we can see the client, now I can really see my role in this and how I contribute to our lack of closeness. I'll have clients who get really emotional with this. I'm like, you know, I'm feeling really sad to really see my role in this and to see how I hurt him or make him feel down or belittled, him or her, whatever. Right? Okay, and in this point, I really like to integrate the enlightenment even more with the forced empathy. And so I know this is a little bit unique and not always the typical go-to in the team approach, but I love using the forced empathy at this moment with it. And forced empathy is a tool where, Jessica, would you be willing to try the forced empathy method? And it's a role play tool just to see where it goes.
Sure, let's go for it.
So in this method, you're gonna take on the role of Chris.
Okay.
And we're gonna pretend that Jessica left and Chris is coming into the room right now and we're talking to Chris. And your job will be to just respond to my questions. I have the easy role. I'm just playing myself as the therapist. And I'm just meeting Chris for the first time. And your role would be to imagine that you've been injected with a truth serum, and you can only tell me the truth and nothing but the truth from Chris's perspective to the best of your ability. So to not censor things or soften it to preserve Jessica's feelings, you're just going to be completely honest with me. And the second rule is that you just will stay in this role as Chris until we end the method. Would you be willing to do both of those?
Yeah, we'll try it.
Okay. So now Jessica leaves and Chris is coming in. And Chris, is it okay if I talk to you for a minute?
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming here. And, you know, I've been working with your wife, Jessica, and I just grown to really care about her and like her a lot. And I just appreciate you also coming here so I can get to know you a little bit better too. I'm really looking forward to it, to chatting with you. And what I've kind of learned from Jessica is sometimes there just isn't as much closeness as she'd like in the relationship, and I'm wondering for you what the relationship has been like for you with the 3 kids. And what happened to Jessica?
Did I make on? Am I having internet issues?
Oh! You jumped up here. Okay. Yeah. What's
Okay.
that? What's the relationship been like?
Yeah, I feel like there's just never enough time. There's always something we're focused on, and then we have those brief interactions that are just, prickly, not comfortable.
I heard you say you feel like there's not enough time, and then you said something about focus on, like there's just not enough.
No, I said when we do have enough time, like just the 2 of us, then we have just like harsh interactions, with like snappy or not feeling close.
Yeah, so you're feeling like there's not enough time, and when you do have those brief interactions, they're kind of prickly or harsh, and then it's harder to feel close. And she kind of told me about an incident where you were kind of making a random comment about the fridge needing to be cleaned out, and then she responded to you with saying, yeah, we do, don't we? And I wondered what that was like for you in that moment. What were you thinking and feeling?
The fridge needed to be cleaned out.
Yeah. And how about when she responded in that way? How did that affect you?
I was just confused. Why would she be so upset? I just made a comment.
Yeah, then you felt confused.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was wondering too if maybe it felt maybe a bit hurtful.
Yeah.
Just out of
kind of attacked.
You felt attacked. Yeah. You felt confused, attacked, kind of hurt by it.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's already not enough time to be together, because you guys do have 3 kids, I wonder too if it's maybe kind of been feeling possibly lonely for you. When you said the interactions are harsh and prickly, and then there isn't enough time for closeness.
Yeah, because I'm gone all day, and then when I come home, there's just so much that has to be done before the kids go to bed, and she's doing one thing, I'm doing the other, and then by the time they're all done, I think we're both just kind of through. You're
pooped by then. Yeah, you're exhausted. So you're gone all day working, and then there's so much to be done at home. You're doing your own separate things. So you're saying there is some loneliness in that.
Yeah.
And does it add to the loneliness when the few brief interactions you have is kind of harsh and prickly?
Yeah, because it makes me kind of not want to try when we do have more downtime, because I'm like, well, I don't really feel like, being barked at, or, it just doesn't really feel worth it all the time.
Yeah, that decreases your motivation to try.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth it to be barked at. And yeah, it sounds a little bit painful too. What is it that you appreciate about your wife? Why are you hanging in there and still trying at times. And
She's a great person. She works so hard at taking care of our family, and she loves our kids. And
yeah, emotional, right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been in this exact position and cried in the group as well. It's just so emotional to get in touch with that. And so you're saying she's actually a great person, and she works so hard to take care of the family, and she loves the kids. I'm hearing she's a pretty great mom then, in your perspective. Yeah. What are your feelings towards her overall, despite all of these struggles?
Oh, I love her.
You do? You really mean that?
Yeah.
Even when you're barked at sometimes?
Yeah.
And before we leave off, I've appreciated talking to you, Chris. I'm just wondering if Jessica could just know some things and you'd appreciate her knowing these things, what would it be? What are the things you would want her to know?
I'm on her side. We're a team.
Beautiful message. Want her to know you're on her side. You're a team.
Mm-hmm.
What would you want her to know about feeling criticized or inadequate or not doing a good job?
She does a great job.
You
And
mean that?
yeah, way better than I could do as far as being home all day and
Yeah, me too.
so much done.
Yeah, she does a great job, and you actually see that she does way better than you could do on being home all day and getting so much done.
Yeah. I rely on her for so much.
Mm-hmm. Then I'm hearing you kind of admire her too for all that she gets done and does really well at. Okay. All right, Chris, well, I appreciated talking to you. I'm gonna have you head out now, and Jessica's coming back in. So that's how I would do the force the empathy. Let me do some teaching points real quick. And so how I opened it up, you wanna set it up to where they have those 2 rules where they've taken a truth serum and they tell the truth and nothing but the truth to the best of their ability from the other person's perspective. The second rule is they're willing to stay in this role and not step out of it until the method ends, right? Because sometimes they'll try to come back and narrate from their perspective and then they kind of lose it. The whole point of this is it's called forced empathy because you want to ask questions to get to Chris's feelings, and you want Jessica and Chris's role to actually feel those feelings. So when she can say, I love her, or she does such a good job, and you could see the emotions from it. I don't know if I've ever done this tool without people actually having some emotions that show, because it can be quite powerful. And so you want to ask questions, not just about his thoughts on the situation, but how did it make him feel? And then how did it affect his behaviors? Because he says, then I feel like it's not worth putting in the effort to be barked at when we do have time together, right? So it decreases his motivation. And then she can see her part in how it creates the dynamic of disconnect there. And Jessica, what was that like for you?
It's actually pretty powerful. I didn't expect. I was like, oh, I should have done a fake person.
Yeah, I'm so glad you didn't, because I saw the power in it too, and I felt so moved by it, and I connected with your tears, and I love how personal work brings the tools to life, and you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you, and with my client afterwards, I'll do this too. What did you get from this exercise? What was powerful about it?
I really like listening to myself be him. He does feel those things, and I've heard him tell me those things, but a lot of times I can't hear them in the moment when I'm upset.
Absolutely.
Or hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe him in the moment.
Right, because you're still kind of defensive. You don't really even want to hear much of what he has to say, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll have clients who say that too, but when I said it in my voice, and that's why I would ask her, do you really mean that? To really like integrate that learning, and when they say yes, it's like, and I know they mean it. I know he genuinely loves me. I know he knows I'm doing a good job and appreciates and admires me on how good I'm doing. I couldn't do as good of a job as her. Like all of those things were really moving to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else you got from that on looking at your role, or what he would say to you if he could?
No, I can't think of anything else.
Okay. And then from here, I would have them, after the forced empathy, fill out more of step 4. So what are the consequences of when I yelled at him, or, was sarcastic and snarky? So I would have them put down, like, it hurt his feelings. He actually felt attacked, like anything else that came out that we didn't get to from the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it made him feel maybe kind of lonely in this relationship. Yeah. It's quite helpful to also connect with the person's vulnerable emotions, because oftentimes when we're disconnected with the other person, we kind of just maybe see their anger or confusion, but it's harder for us to see that, oh, they're a human being with also loneliness, and they desire to connect with me, and they feel sad in this too.
Right.
So it can help to see them as a whole human being. So we would put down on step 4, it made him feel more lonely. And then it decreased his motivation to put in effort when we have more downtime, because then he doesn't want to be attacked by me or barked at by me.
Mm-hmm.
What are your feelings that come up when you would write that stuff down? Like, he's lonely, it decreases motivation, he doesn't want to be barked at by me or feel attacked.
Like I feel guilty.
Yeah.
Or sad that
Sure.
I interact with him like that.
Yeah. And those are really the 2 feelings I look for, because those are beautiful feelings that show that that person has fully kind of empathized with the other person. And it's a wonderful thing to feel guilt when we've hurt someone we've cared about, and to feel sad about the dynamic. It drives change. So those are often the 2 most common feelings. I feel bad, I feel guilty that I've hurt him, and I feel kind of sad about it too.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts me that I've hurt them, right? Okay, let me answer some questions before we do a brief overview of the 5 secrets. Okay, Grace said thanks. Oh, I already read that one from Grace. Darren says, how do we deal with one partner or the other feeling singled out or left out when you're working with the other partner? They usually love it. Like, they often don't feel singled out, because the partner that you're working with, they're owning up to their errors, they're engaging in forced empathy. They are working to empathize with the other person. And so they often actually don't feel singled out. They actually don't look forward to their part, and they love the part when they're observing the partner doing the work of looking at their faults. Oh, Angela said it's okay, let the tears come. Appreciate that, Angela, the true therapist in her. I'm like, let it flow, it's a beautiful thing. So forced empathy is with client taking the perspective of the partner, not with the partner. Okay, I'm a little bit confused on that, Urban, but yes, they do take on the perspective of the partner. And I would have the partner in there observing it as well, and maybe adding pieces to it. Often I'll have partners who said they were really right on. Like, they just really connected with me there. I'm not sure what you mean with not the partner, and feel free to clarify that too. Okay, so from here, any other thoughts or questions on forced empathy before I go over how we wrap this up? So then you just kind of process with the client on what that was like and what their feelings were. Okay, and then I'm gonna share the PowerPoint here. So yeah, step 1, what did they say and feel? What did you say and feel? Step 2. Step 3 is them analyzing their communication. And then 4 is, what are the consequences of their response? Did it make things better or worse? That's when I do the forced empathy to really integrate the other person's perspective. And I did the forced empathy demo. Okay, Urban is saying, I mean, it is with Jessica pretending to be Chris and not actually done with Chris. Yes, it is the client taking on the role of the person that they want to get closer to. So I've had clients done this with their mom. And again, you want to make sure they get closer to this person, or the tool can backfire, right? I've had a client who said, I'm getting more angry as I'm hearing the stupid things that this person is saying. But that was when I did a worse job at agenda setting. I realized she didn't want to get closer to her mom. But yeah, it's your client is taking on the role of the person that they're in conflict with, but they want to get closer to. So then they could really fully see that person as a human being with feelings and thoughts, and be forced into empathizing with them on a deeper level. Okay, oops. Okay, so 5 secrets is step 5 of the relationship journal. This is the very last part. I would do communication training with them. I've done a whole webinar on the 5 secrets, so I'm going to spare you on that. If you want more information on the 5 secrets, I'd recommend getting the book Feeling Good Together. So I have that up here. And basically, I'll just retrain them on the 5 secrets on how can you replace your step 2 with let's disarm that person. How can we empathize with them better? How can I share my feelings better? And do some stroking. Stroking is when I bring in a statement of warmth and respect to that person, and then do some inquiry, which is an open-ended question to understand that person a little bit more. So if it was my client, I make sure she just practice on replacing her step 2 response. And usually their first few attempts really aren't that great. So we want to be genuine in giving them feedback. I do the letter grade system. We want to get closer to the B, if not an A. And so we'll do the review, and I'll have them actually really practice this. So I'll have the partner feed the negative statement, and then they would have to practice the 5 secrets. And then they would give themselves feedback, a letter grade, what they did well, what could be done better. The partner will give them feedback on what they liked, what could have been better, and then I would give feedback as well. So just a quick demo of the 5 secrets, replacing Jessica's initial response of, yeah, we do, don't we, would be roughly something along the lines of, yeah, you know, it does need to be cleaned out. So that's disarming. And I know you weren't thinking much about this. You're probably just making a statement. So that's kind of feeling and thought empathy. But at the same time, I just find myself feeling kind of overwhelmed and a little bit defensive right now, and even a bit hurt and criticized. And then I would do some stroking with that, like, and I really know that's not your intentions to hurt me or to criticize me. That's just the feelings I'm finding come up for me as you're addressing things about the home or the girls. And the inquiry would be like, you know, what is this feeling like for you? Or something along those lines, where maybe giving him a chance to share about, you know, I'm sorry I've made those or created those feelings, because that's definitely not even something I was thinking about. Basically just giving them an open space to share about their part or their side. And I have a Facebook group. You just type in TEAM-CBT therapists, and it does say Oklahoma, just to distinguish me from Feeling Good Institute, but anyone can join. And the Feeling Good podcast, there's a whole relationship podcast where he works with a man who wants to get closer to his wife. And it's episodes 54 through 57. You can download it on iTunes or download any podcast player on your Android. And just type in Feeling Good Podcast David Burns, and it will show up for you. It's completely free, and it's one of my favorite resources to learning TEAM-CBT. The book Feeling Good Together. I also have an upcoming training on June 30th, and it's for 6.5 CEUs for Oklahoma therapists. People from other states will have to just go through their boards. Some states will approve the CEUs once they look at the agenda, but some states are a little bit stricter than others. But it will count towards 6.5 certification units. You just need 12 in order to get level 1 certification. And so this will count towards half of it. This webinar will count towards 1.5. So if you attended 12 webinars, like this one and next week will count as 3. So you'd be pretty close to getting level 1 certification. I just love this treatment approach, and I feel like the certification was really the best thing I've done for my life, my practice, my personal life. I feel like it's transformed me as a person, spiritually, and I really can't say that about many therapy approaches that I've learned before, but it's really taught me to let go of my ego and how to connect with people better. And this training is on June 30th. There is 2 spots left. There's just a total of 5 because I want enough time for y'all to have practice. I think that's the best way to learn TEAM-CBT, and I want to be there to give you feedback. which is more helpful a lot of times than peer training. So I'm present for every single practice round, and that's why I only have 5 people. So it's weird, 9 people have actually signed up. There's only 5 slots, but like 4 of them haven't paid. So so it's on a first pay first serve. So there's 2 official slots left there. And when you attend my workshop, Dr. Burns has allowed or approved it to count towards a discount towards his toolkit. So you'll get like $40 off of the toolkit. It goes from like $220 to like $180. And then the ebook goes from like $120 to $99 or $139 to $99. So you get discount on both of those resources. And I think they're awesome and worth it as well. So I would love to see you there if you're interested in it. You just go to teamcbttraining.com/trainings. And I just love it. And I think that you will also see, just from one training, you'll see improvements on implementing skills to help people improve depression and anxiety. So I'll just leave it with that there. Let me wrap up with any other last thoughts or questions with the last 3 minutes here. Anna says, thanks, Diane, this training was great. Oh, thanks, Jessica, for volunteering. Really appreciate your vulnerability. Yeah, that was really awesome. I love that in-person work because it's just so much more powerful in bringing the tools to life when people are real and vulnerable and genuine. So thanks for your kind words there, Anna. Ashley says, thank you, this was great, and good job, Jessica. Thanks. Ashley, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Irvin says, thanks, great, thanks, Jessica. Everyone's appreciating Jessica a lot. It's awesome when people can be that vulnerable, right? Angela, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I was curious to the dynamics if you're doing a couple in the same room together, especially during the empathy phase, because you're, to relate with the client one-on-one, and they're saying what a jerk this guy is as he's sitting there. How do you do that kind of empathy? Are you a little bit more careful when you do that, or do you do individual sessions first? Or I'm curious to how you practice with couples.
For me personally, I do empathy with both in the room, even if there's anger, even if they're saying that person's being a jerk, because I just want to hear and see their dynamic together. And then I do still empathize with that person. I'm like, yeah, so that must have been painful. I'm hearing you're saying, he was being a jerk in that moment. Or, they may censor their words a little bit more, but I'll really try to make them feel heard. But I'll still pull in the other person and what was it like for you during this interaction? What's it like for you to hear them have these feelings around it? And really try to make both people feel heard, but give time to both as well. And because I really like transparency in the relationship work, unless there's like some issues where you feel like one person can't be honest at all or it's abusive or something, I'd like to just bring it together and have people be transparent about their thoughts and their feelings. Yeah. What did that answer your question, Angela? Do you still have concerns?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It came up for me because I had a consultation, and I was sharing with my supervisor, because I'm just an entry-level therapist. So I think I know team better than I know therapy. It feels that way for me because as a life coach, I used a lot of these tools.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you're more effective than your supervisor then.
And so my supervisor was like, well, you get in the same room. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm comfortable going that quickly, because with couples, I could just imagine them erupting and not knowing how to deal with that kind of.
Yeah, sure, they can. And a lot of times I just positively reframe that on, it's great to see that we can see the dynamics that go on in this session, so then we can really work to address it and to shed it.
Cool. Yeah, I can really see, and I did say to my supervisor, I think I might like to pursue that down the road, but so I just really appreciate this because it kind of solidified what he was saying from a team perspective. So thank you.
And some team therapists do start like the intake sessions. They'll work to look at motivation and agenda setting separately for that person, but I've personally just done it all together and haven't seen much issues with it. Okay. Obi Oha, I hope I'm not butchering that, says, thanks a lot, Jessica and Tyann, good training. Thank you so much. And Batia says, it's great being able to join the webinar and learn some new tools. Yeah, it's great to have you here. And it is 3 o'clock. So what I forgot to remind you all of was entering your name in the chat to get full credit for it. So if you were here from the beginning to end, enter your name in. If you were here for the last hour, obviously for the first hour, then you can't put your name in, but hopefully they'll do the feedback form and then I can get all that information. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a good rest of your Friday. And appreciate all of the good questions, and hope to see you again in the next training. Next Friday, the webinar is open for depression, so feel free to register for that. That one's free. I'm just leaving this up so you can enter your name and get credit for being here. Thanks, Shanina. I'll see you there at the one-day training, so that will be cool. Estefania, what's your last name? Would you mind entering your full name in there? Terry, glad you were here. Okay, thanks, Estefania. Glad you were here, Terry. It's good to meet you. Take care. I can't hear you. I'm not sure if are you talking to me right now? Yeah, just click on that bottom left. I can unmute you.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
here. Hello.
Okay.
It's because I'm new in this with this gadget.
Yes,
So
I know.
I cannot ask you something, but I am going to study this. But do you receive my name, Teresa Guzman? Tere Guzman?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Your legal name is T-E-R-E?
Terry. Okay.
Terry. Where are you from, Terry?
Mexico City.
Oh, okay. So are you there with like Sorry and some of the Sorry, what's her last name? Morgenstern?
I don't know. We are in the second group with Dr. Jedwa.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Are you all getting trained under Dr. Yehuda?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, cool. That's great. I'm glad we've seen so many more people from Mexico getting trained in TEAM-CBT. That's awesome.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah,
it is difficult to me to understand everything because it is not my first language, as you know.
Oh, I know.
But I'm trying hard to understand it, but it is very good to me. Okay.
Yeah, it's challenging to learn a whole new therapy approach in a whole different language, right?
Yes.
But your English is excellent. I think it just takes time for processing. Vietnamese was my first language too, so I get the learning, but I couldn't imagine learning even therapy in another language now because it's even more complicated.
I have a question. I don't know if you are in a hurry or you can answer me this question.
I have a couple of minutes. Yeah, it looks like some other people are still typing in their names into the chat. Yeah.
It's just the force empathy demo.
Yeah.
What it is, force is, it means it is has to be forced. Empathy.
Forced is really like you force them to feel that person's feeling, so you're making them feel that person's feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that is not good to force them, or you have to force them.
So I think you're asking, like, do we force them into any methods? We don't want to force them into doing any methods. We want to make sure they want to do this method. And it's called forced empathy because they themselves, when they're willing to do that tool, it forces them to feel that person's feelings. Okay. So that's why it's called forced empathy. But we as the therapists, we don't want to force anyone to do anything that they don't want to. That's for sure.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, good question.
Okay. Thank you very much. You're
Thank
so kind.
you, Terry.
I'll see you the next webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll see you then. Take care. So glad you were here.
Bye-bye. Glad to meet you.
Bye. Okay, thanks, William. Anyone else need to enter their name before I forgot to end the recording. Okay, last call to enter your name into the chat to get credit for the training. And then I'm going to close out.